Welcome in. Let's review Fatman. I discovered this movie, I think maybe it was last year, 2021, but it came out in 2020. It's produced by Saban Films, which when I saw Saban Films, didn't really know who they were, and then I've gotten to know some of their projects. Just this year alone, 2022, I think they've released 5 or 6 movies with Mel Gibson. So they have just, hey, you want all these scripts? How's the lighting in here, guys? Better. What they do in order to legally promote them in the movie, Mel Gibson, for example, or Bruce Willis, they've been working with him a lot, they have to at least have Mel Gibson, Bruce Willis in the movie for 7 minutes minimum. They have to have them for 7 minutes, and usually it's about 7 minutes. They have a beginning, middle, and end. It's probably like a 1-2 day shoot with these guys. Fatman, I think, was the first collaboration, and it actually stars Mel Gibson. He's in the whole movie. I will be getting into spoilers. If you have not seen this movie, I don't know why you're watching this. Because I'm not just going to dance around and give my general review. This is going to be relatively in-depth. This movie is such a ridiculous premise, but it's played out like an action drama. The commitment of each actor to carry out the premise seriously is one of my favorite aspects of this movie and adds to the humor. Because you're like, how are you talking about that so seriously when it's so goofy? And stuff. A spoiled brat of a kid named Billy is given coal for Christmas. So he hires a hitman to assassinate Santa. The assassin was also given coal as a kid, so he can relate to the hatred, which is much to his chagrin. And I'll get into the character of Kris Kringle. Mel Gibson plays Kris Kringle, old disgruntled Santa with a soft heart for the Christmas spirit, but he feels everyone else around him is losing theirs, so it makes his job harder. We've seen this before. Elf is the same thing. The reindeer sleigh can't fly because people are losing faith. I think there's a piece of meat stuck in my back molar and I can smell it. This version of Santa has a loathing for a world that's forgotten Christmas and Santa. He admittedly states in the movie, he is freakishly strong. Love that aspect. Which they only show once, but that's enough. They showed his powers only once or twice, and I love that. Without it, it's like fan service, but not overdoing it. Great character. I am very surprised that Mel Gibson took on this role, but also I totally understand it because I don't think his career was doing super great. Walton Goggins, if you know him from The Shield, Ant-Man 2, I think he was the bad guy. He's also in the 2009 version of The Predator. His name in the movie is Skinny Man. He's referred to as Skinny Man, but he's the assassin who is hired by rich people to go kill other people. And this time he's given the job to kill Santa, and he loves the idea of doing that. He's been harboring this hatred towards old Saint Nick, and now he gets the chance to actually track him down. So he goes to a mail room, a mailbox, not a mailbox, a mail place that sends out mail, and he's like, give me the P.O. box. Marianne Jean-Baptiste plays Ruth. She is Santa's wife. His #1 supporter, very sweet, makes him hot chocolate. She takes care of all of his wounds. She encourages him every time that he's down. And she tries not to discourage because of Santa's own discouragement in and of itself. She watches out for Santa's health in terms of eating sugar constantly. Our intro to Santa is he is shooting cans for target practice. This is already unusual to see Santa doing. Santa does deliver the gifts that are made at the North Pole, but they don't really show it. They never show the sleigh, the reindeer, the delivering of gifts. What they do show is Santa coming back from delivering gifts, and he has a couple bullet holes in him because people are shooting him off the roof. They don't know that it's him. They also toe the line because Santa will sit next to a stranger at a bar, and he will know everything about them. He'll just start a conversation and totally know them, like, hey, Jeff. Just like Santa would. He knows if you're naughty or nice. He knows if you're asleep or awake. Santa even talks the man at the bar to going home and being with his family instead of being here drinking. So even on an individual basis, he's still spreading the Christmas cheer, which is all that he can do right now. Billy, the kid given coal, who kind of, incites the violence here. Billy even threatens to torture his fellow classmate for coming in first at the science fair, which is so funny to see a little kid holding jumper cables, like threatening to torture and like electrocute. It's clearly spoofing every single film that's had a scene like that, like Taken. But you'd usually expect a parody or a spoof to be goofy. Airplane, Hot Shots, Spaceballs. It's wacky. Fatman is a parody and is even a comedy, but played out as a drama. I find the joke here to be so layered and intellectual in a way that most people are not going to understand. But I do, and I feel like I'm part of the club. Or that this movie is catered to me and my sensibilities and humor. They didn't have the budget to show Santa on the sleigh, so they find creative ways of showing the effect of him giving presents on a night like Christmas and then coming back and still being with Santa in his reality. But it's more when he's at home crunching numbers, sewing up his injuries, or even being offered contracts. The assassin, aka Skinny Man, is trying to find Santa. So he calls a travel advisor before he goes to the mailroom. He calls a travel advisor trying to look up the North Pole, and he says, "Now, where's the North Pole? Can I find them?" And then the person on the other line goes, "Who are you looking for?" And he goes, "I'm looking under, do you have any residents there under the name of Christopher Kringle?" Click. The other person hangs up on him. It's one of the best jokes in the whole movie, and they don't go for joke. The subtle jokes and bits, they stand out as being really fun, because even when they're small, because there's so few of them. So each joke is noticed and really hits home with me. When the Skinny Man is holding a gun to the guy at the mailroom saying, "Write down the address." This is such a funny joke. Skinny Man's holding a gun to the guy's head, and the dude is like pressed up against the desk, and he tries to reach for a pen so that he can like write down the address for the guy, but he can't find the pen, and then Skinny Man's like, to the right. No, it's right to the other right. It's like violent but really humorous. Without those moments, the tone wouldn't come off as much of a joke as it already does. Or when Santa wants a cookie, but his wife slaps his hand, and then he waits there, and he just snags a cookie and runs. Santa's problem with today's youth rings true as legitimate critique towards youth today. Possibly a frustration from the writer or director himself. He signs a 2-year contract with the military, Santa does. His elves, who are like a midway between known Christmas elves and more like human elves, I think they're regular size. I don't think they're very small. Signing with the military pivots their work into being more towards fighter pilots rather than Christmas presents, which is a decision that Santa makes, but it completely breaks his heart to have to make this decision, that they have to put Christmas aside and they have to make money. They have to make their money, so they're going to sign with the military and start making military-esque stuff. That's kind of the whole plot that's going on here. The music never feels out of sync or out of place. It always complements what's on screen so perfectly. It helps the movie separate itself from B-movies and not feel like poor quality. This movie is high quality all around, and they never drop the ball. They have workarounds for budgetary restrictions, but that's what filmmakers do. What can we afford? What can we pull off in the realm of what we can afford? If anyone lacked or didn't get it in their performance, it would feel off. If they didn't fully commit to the premise, it would feel off. Like if they didn't get how to play to the specific humor in this movie, it would not have been a match. The actors have to understand the movie before entering into it, and I love that they did. Santa even remembers Skinny Man, the assassin, calls him by his first name and says, "You twisted child." The assassin shows Santa the only actual gift he ever gave him. Maybe it wasn't a piece of coal, but it might have been. It might have been the only gift in a bunch of coal. And it's really heartfelt. It's a really heartfelt moment when the assassin actually catches up to Santa, and he's crying, and he's saying, "All those letters I wrote you, Santa." Kris Kringle, Santa says, "I read your letters, but I could never replace your parents." Then they have a massive shootout at the end, which is so awesome to see Santa wielding 2 guns at once, ducking behind logs for cover. Then the assassin, this is surprising, he gets the best of Santa, stabs him twice, then shoots him in the head. I forgot about that watching it for the second time. Totally subverting any and all expectations of how a usual good guy versus bad guy storyline goes, or turns out most times. This movie is not most times. It does its own thing despite how you feel about it or the genre. They do flip it back around and show that Santa's freakish strength kept him alive, even though he was shot through the eye socket. I love that Santa visits Billy in the end, and he chugs a glass of milk that Billy the kid has out for him. And then when he's done chugging it, he goes, fentanyl. Showing that the kid would have poisoned him, or tried to, and he goes, yep, that'll get the job done. But Santa doesn't die. He obviously, this is at the very end, so he's been stabbed twice, shot in the head, and he chugs a thing of fentanyl, and he's still kicking. Which I like that they really show us that, and they never really tell us about it. You kind of have to discover it for yourself. Santa says to Billy, you try that one more time, you'll be getting more than coal. Meaning that Billy has probably tried to kill Santa multiple times. He then makes a spiel about the consequences of one's actions and being accountable for them. Which I think the movie as a whole is putting that message out to people even more than the Christmas spirit type of message. They kind of tackle a valid Christmas message, but not one that's shared or preached very often in Christmas movies. It's like a whole new side to the holiday, like a Christmas Carol where Santa's kind of the Ebenezer Scrooge, coming around to the end and realizing it doesn't matter if people don't believe in me or Christmas, I still need to do my job and bring cheer. And he himself has shown where he went wrong. So he commits to righting the wrongs within his power to do so and just doing better with Christmas onwards. I adore this movie, dude. I mean, it is one of my favorite Christmas movies ever. The cast, the director, editor, score, the musical score person, they never drop the ball. This movie is so quality. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. But then again, you probably shouldn't watch this if you haven't seen it. So I recommend you watch it again. The actors that they got to be in this, I still can't believe they got them to be in this. Especially Mel Gibson. I mean, the director and writer, he is living my dream in getting to work with Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson is my favorite actor, no matter what you guys think about him, no matter what he's done in his life, in his personal life. I look at this man's career, all the movies that I grew up with, all the movies that I discovered in college. I love Mel Gibson from an acting standpoint and from a directing standpoint. He is so brilliant. And this man has such pain and depth that he's able to give to people on the screen. This review is a test run to see how reviews are going to do on my page. And my apologies if things were left unclear, if I didn't dive deep enough into the movie as a whole. The notes that I took on this movie are different from the notes that I took in the other ones. The other ones that I'm reviewing soon are much more in depth, and I've seen them much more. I've only seen this one twice. The next movie that I'm going to review is my favorite movie of all time. I've seen it 10 plus times. I watch it every year, usually with a new person with me. I'm like, dude, you gotta see this. I will be reviewing Nightcrawler. So at some point, probably Wednesday, January 4th, I would like to have that second review up. I'm still working at the kinks, but I don't really know what kinks there are to work out until I just do this and do these reviews. And I promise they will improve. But I'm so eager to get my opinion of movies out there in the world. So I wanted this one to be short. I wanted to be semi-prepared for it, not as prepared as I would have liked to be. I'm also doing this to start a dialogue with you guys. Share your opinion on this movie, on any of the movies that I review. Please share your opinion. Even if it's different than mine, I ask that you guys be respectful of my opinion, but share yours, and let's start a dialogue. If you know of anybody who likes movies, likes reviews, has seen some of the movies that I've reviewed, please share it. And let's get this thing going, man. I've done 35 episodes of my other podcast, Callcast, and this is episode 1 of this podcast. And I am very eager to see how this plays out for 2023 in a project for that year. So I guess stay tuned for my next review, Nightcrawler. If you haven't seen it, please watch it. You can also follow along on the films that I'm going to be reviewing. You can follow along on Letterboxd. If you don't know what that is, it's a social media for film lovers. Letterboxd, man. Follow along on there and let's rock this thing. All right. Thanks again, guys. I bid you adieu.